The Boston Celtics cakewalk to the NBA Finals continues. They eliminated the Cleveland Cavaliers last night. It really did feel like for most of the game, the Celtics were sort of toying with the Cavs. Obviously, the Cavs without Donovan Mitchell, without Jared Allen, and without Karis LeVert. It was almost the Marcus Morris Senior Memorial game. Marcus Morris, I thought, really kept the Cavs in the game. But as I said, it just felt like every time the Cavs got within a couple points, specifically in the second half, the Celtics would then pull away. They ended up winning by 17 points. And I think there's this huge narrative out there that, the Celtics are a very good team. There's a reason why they were the best team in the NBA. I think they will cruise through the East. I think whoever makes it out of Knicks Pacers with Jalen Brunson and crew, even shorthanded, demolished Indiana on Tuesday night, which of course game uh 6 will be Friday night, so they get the extra day because of the Caitlin Clark effect for the Indiana Fever. But in my opinion, I think the Knicks will probably wrap that up in 6. If they don't, I don't see a way Indiana comes back and wins game 7 in MSG. Tyrese Halliburton has been horrible on the road throughout these whole playoffs. And as I've said, I think they only got past Milwaukee because Giannis was out the whole series and Dame missed 2 or 3 games. I mean, if you think about it, game 5 in Milwaukee, Chris Middleton beat the Indiana Pacers by himself. That to me told me the Pacers were frauds. I don't care how good they are offensively. They couldn't stop the other side of a pillow defensively. So I do think we're going to get Celtics next, which again, Tom Thibodeau, the former assistant in Boston, going back there trying to win a series. And why I think the Knicks, I used to not like the Knicks. I really don't like New York. I don't like New York sports. You guys know I'm a Philadelphia Eagles fan, et cetera, et cetera. But these Knicks are likable in my opinion. They play tough, they play hard, but the bottom line is Tom Thibodeau doesn't even know what a bench is, and these Knicks are wearing down, and Boston just has too many good players, especially when they get Kristaps Porzingis back. I don't think that the Knicks could beat Boston in a 7 game. I don't even think they take it to 6, excuse me. I think the Knicks may get a game in MSG or even in Boston in game 2. But I think the Celtics would probably wrap that series up in 5 games. Again, for the Celtics, you don't play Jimmy Butler in the first round. You're not playing Jared Allen at all in the second round. Then Donovan Mitchell gets hurt. Then Karis LeVert gets hurt. Now you're going to face a Knicks team without potentially OG Anunoby, without Mitchell Robinson already, without Julius Randle already, and a team that's falling apart because they have played a lot of long series, 6 against the Sixers, and then at least 6 against Indiana. So whoever they meet in the West, which let's go there now. I had said that after Minnesota took a 2-0 series lead against Denver, I may have been the only person in the country who said this series is not over. Everybody was saying the T-Wolves are going to sweep Denver or they're going to gentlemen sweep them. And I honestly said, you can never doubt the heart of a champion. And I doubted the Nuggets, if you guys have been listening to this podcast for a while, for last year's postseason because they haven't done it. And Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic, we've never seen them on that big of a stage. And Miami had been, of course, being this miracle team that came out of nowhere from the 8th seed to get to the finals, but they were really playing well. And I gave Miami a chance, and Miami beat Denver at Ball Arena in game 2. And what we've seen for Denver is, even though it's a very good home court advantage in that altitude in Colorado, it doesn't always equal success. And I thought, again, the Lakers, just like this year, last year, played maybe the closest sweep in the history of the NBA. But once you win that championship, I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt. And I said that Anthony Edwards, at 22 years old, even though he looks like the next superstar in the NBA, and I said, this postseason was going to be a changing of the guard when I made my NBA playoff predictions. I said, this is the new NBA. LeBron's going to be out of it early. Kevin Durant's going to be out of it early. Kawhi Leonard's going to be out of it early. Steph Curry may not even be in the actual playoffs. And even though I liked Golden State to potentially get in, and I thought they could have beat Oklahoma City, obviously in a 1 game scenario, Sacramento was better at home. Um, but I did think this was a proving ground for guys like Shea Gilders Alexander, for guys like Anthony Edwards, for guys like Tyrese Halliburton, for guys like Jalen Brunson, even for a guy like Donovan Mitchell, who at this point in his career reminds me a lot of Damian Lillard, to where he's a great scoring guard, but he has like a round two ceiling to him. Um, but in the case here, I said again, you don't doubt Denver. I thought Minnesota was just a little bit too young. I thought Denver's role players would step up. In game five, Nikola Jokic just dominated Rudy Gobert, who again, historically in the postseason has really struggled. So I think Denver's going to make it out of that series. Could Minnesota win tonight and we go back to Denver for a game seven? Absolutely, there's a chance. But I do think tonight there's a good chance Denver wraps it up in six. I also think Dallas is going to wrap it up in six. They mostly dominated the Thunder last night. They should have won game four as well. They just sort of left, took their foot off the gas pedal, if you will. And I had said, the interesting thing for teams like Oklahoma City and Minnesota, specifically out west, of course, Oklahoma City, the youngest number one seed in the history of the NBA. For Minnesota, even though they have some veterans on the team, they are led by a 22-year-old. That when you add these young teams, when you face a championship experience team like Denver, when you face a team like Dallas that has two dominant scoring bigs in Luka, Kyrie, and PJ Washington and Tim Hardaway have finally come on for Dallas. That I said Dallas doesn't have a lot of great size. That outside of Wiley, they don't have a ton of bigs, and this would have to be a Shed Holmgren series offensively. And Shed is not game with SGA in this series. And again, I'm giving Oklahoma City a pass because they're young. And we've seen it. Just because you're a number one seed in the NBA Mickey Mouse regular season doesn't mean that you are the best team in your conference. So I think, as I predicted to begin these playoffs, we're going to get Dallas, Denver in a Western Conference Finals. And I think that unlike this series against Minnesota, that series would become a Nikola Jokic series because, again, of Dallas's lack of size, I don't think Luke and Kyrie could significantly outscore Jokic and Jamal Murray, which is what they would have to do in that series. And I think Boston will take good care of the Knicks. So I do think we're going to get a Celtics Nuggets NBA Finals, which again, from Boston's perspective, we've seen them sort of coast. And they went 0-2 against Denver in the regular season, and I don't think they have an answer for Nikola Jokic. Maybe if they shoot the lights out of the ball, they could steal a game or two, give Boston the benefit of the doubt, push it to 6 games. But I do think the Denver Nuggets are still should be your favorite to make the NBA championship. The last thing I want to address today that I did not get to is when we were talking about the Eastern Conference. I think that maybe the most interesting team this offseason, at least one of them to look out for, will be the Cleveland Cavaliers, my hometown team. There were a lot of reports last night, immediately following the loss to the Celtics, about JB Bickerstaff's future. You know my feeling on who I call the head coach, excuse me. And if you're listening on audio, that head coach was in air quotes because the Cleveland Cavaliers do not have a coach. There was reports out there about Donovan Mitchell questioning his strategies, his in-game management, the practice schedule, etc. And I've said the same thing. I think JB Bickerstaff is horrible at adjustments. I've never seen a Cavs team. You've heard my interviews with various guests over the past few months, specifically in March when we were doing, March Madness, WrestleMania, and NFL free agency, NFL draft, and we would talk about the NBA playoffs. And I would bring up to my guests, I've never seen a team that can't inbound the ball winning games like this Cleveland Cavaliers team. So that would be my first step, is to fire JB Bickerstaff. I think the interesting decision will be if Donovan Mitchell does not sign an extension. And I've been saying this, whether it's on Championship Rings, of course, my other show that I do in collaboration with Voltage Live with Josh Unger every Tuesday night, which that link is always in the description below. That if you're not getting, a 4 or 5 year commitment from Mitchell, you do have to explore trading him and seeing what you could get. I think the Cavs are going to explore all options this postseason, whether that be to bring LeBron back to Cleveland, which for the record, I don't think is happening at all. I don't think LeBron is leaving LA, but I'm just saying, I think the Cavs will explore. I also think that you do have to explore again trading Donovan Mitchell. You would have to explore trading Darius Garland because I think it's clear, and I've said this since the trade, really, since 2 years ago, My one concern about it was the same concern I had with Colin Sexton when he was with Darius Garland, is I don't think you can have two similar size, 6'1" point guard, shooting guard, be your two primary scorers to win an NBA championship. And I think Darius Garland has significantly shrunk. He is a different player this postseason than he was in, really the last few years overall. Now, when I sat down with my buddy Christian Hidden and we talked about this, Hidden was telling me that it was, underreported that Darius Garland had a death in the family, and that could be it. I don't know what it is. The bottom line is Darius Garland did not play well in these playoffs. Evan Mobley did play better when Jared Allen was out, but again, as I've always said, I think Evan Mobley has the body of a Tim Duncan. Tim Duncan was a power forward. I think he has some Kevin Garnett in him. Kevin Garnett was a power forward. When you go up against the likes of the Knicks or the Sixers or Indiana or even Orlando, these big teams in the Eastern Conference, I don't know if Evan Mobley can handle playing the five on a consistent basis. I am worried about the report that Jared Allen was offered to take, obviously, the pain healing injections to play throughout these playoffs once he got banged up, and he did not do that. That would concern me deeply and would make me think about trading Jared Allen. So I think the Cavs desperately need to improve the bench. You don't trust Karis LeVert. You don't trust, obviously, Max Strus. You don't trust Sam Merrill, in my opinion. Craig Porter is, really a nobody. Amani Bates didn't really get any action this season. So I think the bench needs a complete overall. George Niang was a complete clown show in these playoffs. So the bench needs a complete overall. And I think the Cavs are one of the most interesting teams. Again, we'll see what Milwaukee does to critique their roster. We'll see what Orlando does if they decide to bring in a Brandon Ingram or a Paul George. I think Indiana may need to dissolve the Turner, Siakam, Halliburton trio unless Tyrese Halliburton really does become that guy. I think there's again the chance the Clippers break up, Phoenix breaks up, but Cleveland's on that radar too because the East, as I've said, the Cavs are a 4 seed in the East. What are they in the West? Maybe a 7, maybe an 8 seed. Frank Vogel is on my mind as a head coach. He's very good with bigs. But I think this Cavs team, yeah, they won 50 plus games again in the regular season. But in my opinion, to go 7 games with Orlando and to get gentlemen swept, even without Donovan Mitchell and without Jared Allen for the last 2 games of that Boston Celtics series, to go 5-7 in these playoffs for a team that had bigger expectations. That is disappointing if you are a Cleveland Cavaliers fan. Like that clip from the Brands World podcast? If so, make sure you go down there and hit that subscribe button. While you're down there hitting the subscribe button, make sure to also hit the notification bell so you never miss another upload. And make sure you check out all the other clips from the Brands World podcast right here on YouTube.